will post the presentation and also slides on the project website following the town hall meeting. So just to let you know that you will have an opportunity to provide some feedback. So to get started, I do want to introduce today's presenters. We have Dan Chanin, who is the Interim Associate Vice President, Chief Human Resources Officer for UW System Administration, and Jenny Hannawell, who is the Interim Assistant Director of Customer Support and Service Delivery for UW Shared Services. So I would like to introduce them to you and have them take over the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate the introduction. Well, welcome to everyone. I know there's a lot of interest in this topic, and we have, I think, over 600 people on the line today. Let me just start by talking through the agenda and what you can expect to hear over the next hour, and hopefully we'll get into your questions. We want to introduce what this project is. We'll talk about how we think this change will be a benefit to employees. We'll talk about the timing of this change, right? When will it occur? When will you start seeing the move to biweekly paychecks? And then I'm going to hand it off to Jenny, and she's going to talk about how the details of how this will affect paychecks and what kind of your next steps might be to kind of prepare for this change. And then if we haven't answered all your questions, we'll have some time for questions at the end as well. And hopefully get to as many of them as possible. And then also pointing you to those resources that will be updated throughout the next coming months as we prepare for the change, where you can kind of go back to and get questions answered. So let's talk a little bit about what this project is. The goal here is to standardize our UW system payroll with two changes. The first change is to evenly split deductions over the biweekly paychecks, and that's happening in April. And so for the focus of this call, you're currently paid monthly. You receive one paycheck a month and all of the deductions are in it. You may not be aware that for our biweekly employees who are paid every other paycheck, the deductions come out unevenly, and so it results in employees getting a large paycheck and a small paycheck. So one of the first steps of the project is to level out premiums across the biweekly paychecks to make it a more regular deduction for everyone, a better experience for employees. That really, that's taking place in April, but it doesn't affect monthly payroll people because you're only paid once a month right now. The second part of this project and why we're here today is to talk about moving all employees to a biweekly payroll. So if you're currently paid monthly, that is the change that you will experience coming in. Well, we'll talk about the change dates in a couple of slides. So let's talk about why. Right? Why are we doing this project? The goal is to simplify and standardize our payroll process. That ultimately has a benefit to employees, to new employees, to prospective employees, that we can communicate about our payroll procedures in really a consistent and simple manner, right? Having everyone on that same cadence allows us to simply say things like payday is every other Thursday, as opposed to a real complicated set of language of how do we talk to people about their pay. It also aligns with our goal, our UW system operational excellence goal of trying to be more strategic about where our resources are allocated. Running multiple payrolls takes a lot of resources. It should be simplified and resources should be going back into the classroom. So that's the why are we doing it. Let's talk a little bit about how this will benefit you. Right? A biweekly payroll, once we're onto that system, will be more regular, right? You will have a paycheck every other week during your contract period. That payday will remain unchanged. It's every other Thursday. And the benefit deductions will be split evenly. So you'll see a more consistent flow, cash flow of money. It is a change, so we're going to have to plan for that disruption, and we'll talk a little bit about this later in the presentation. but ultimately you'll see positive effects. So one thing we notice is onboarding a new monthly employee. It is a long time before that first paycheck comes. And so the biweekly payroll switch will also help with that issue with new employees. So we see this ultimately as a benefit, but it is an adjustment, and we recognize that, and that's why we're here today. So when will this occur? So beginning July 2021, payroll will transition from monthly to biweekly. So if you're on a 12-month calendar and you're being paid in July, you will experience that change in July. So that will mean we'll move to bi-monthly, and your first paycheck on a biweekly cycle will be 8/12/2021. Right. Likewise, if you're on a summer contract, depending on your contract dates, that first biweekly payroll would be 8/12/2021. For the academic year, right, if you're not working over the summer, that transition to biweekly will depend on when your contract starts. You kind of see those dates there. If you're starting between August 15th and August 28th, you'll see your first payroll in September 9th. If you're later than that, you'll see your first biweekly paycheck, Oshkosh and La Crosse, September 23rd. And really from that point over onward, it is then right every other Thursday through the academic year. So let's talk about some of the items that are still under construction. I think this is my slide, and then I'll hand it off to Jenny, right? There are some things that we have already in place. We're communicating early, but know that our programming teams are working on some details behind the scenes. One of which is a frequent question of how am I going to do the no leave taken reports that were offered monthly? We're working on that behind the scenes, and I will say our goal is to make sure that that is done in a way that is smoother and easier than it was before. And really the goal to not make reporting no leave taken reports, for those of you familiar with them, more burdensome. But we're working on a solution for that. So if that question comes up, just know that's our answer. But you'll be getting more information as we get closer to implementation date. We're still working on how best to transition charitable contributions. So if you're someone who's participated in having charitable contributions deducted from your paychecks, that's one that we're working on, as well as general deductions. So there's a couple of items we're still working on our end, and I wanted to highlight those. But I think what you're going to hear today is kind of the large scale items of how do benefit deductions work, how is pay calculated within a pay period, things that hopefully will get you on the right track for planning for this transition. So having said that, Jenny, do you want to come and talk about details?
Thanks, Dan. Hello, everyone. So as Dan said, I will be taking us through the operational side of single payroll, and we'll be summarizing how single payroll and benefits will work in transition. Before we get started, I just want to mention that there are differences in the impact of single payroll between annual 12-month contracts, academic year 9-month contracts, and summer contracts. And so I wanted to mention that we will be planning to go through a more in-depth review of these impacts. We have future town halls on the schedule that are designated to cover the deeper focus of each of these contract types. And the schedule is listed in the presentation and can be found on our website as well. So I wanted to just let you know that we're giving a summary today of the transition, and the details we will be going through in a future town hall. So please join us for those town halls so we can address the impacts for the different types of contracts. So getting started, Dan already went through the effective date and how it's going to happen for each of the different contract types. So I'm going to start out with how benefit deductions are taken on the biweekly payroll schedule. So and Dan also kind of mentioned this through the process, most benefit deductions will be split evenly across 2 paychecks each month. Examples of these deductions include health, dental, vision, and life insurance. So benefits deductions are taken from 24 of the 26 paychecks that we have in a calendar year. So this means that there are 2 paychecks in a calendar year that do not have these benefits deductions. And it just so happens that the first biweekly paycheck on 8/12 is one of the 2 paychecks in 2021 that will not have benefit deductions taken. So this is good news for us as we are transitioning from monthly to biweekly. Our first biweekly paycheck will not have the benefits deductions taken and therefore will be a little bit higher than the rest of our paychecks going forward. So that's good news. Benefit contributions, on the other hand, are taken on all 26 paychecks. So that contributions are our Wisconsin retirement system, tax sheltered annuity, and our Wisconsin deferred comp. So if you have payroll contributions that are flat dollar amounts, you will want to adjust the amount to deduct over 26 pay periods instead of 12, which is what we are under with the monthly. And we want to talk a bit about this, and we will hit it a couple times throughout this presentation because with the payroll schedule changing mid-year, we will go through options in more detail on making adjustments to flat dollar contributions during the transition. And this is what we want to cover in our future town halls. We will also be reaching out to employees who have these flat dollar amount deductions to help them with the transition period and make sure that they have the time and understand the need to change deductions if necessary. Okay, so we're going to go through the paycheck transition and what you can expect to see from a payroll and benefits perspective during the months surrounding the payroll schedule change. So just starting out, this is starting in June. So our 9-month employees, our 9-month academic year employees are not identified on here because they are not impacted as far as their 9-month contract. So for the month of June, annual 12-month employees will receive a full monthly paycheck on June 30th for the work during the month of June. Summer session and summer service contract dates vary, so proration for the monthly paycheck on 6/30 will differ based on those work days. So it may not be a full, the full month of June as shown in the picture here. Full benefit deductions will be deducted and full benefit contributions will be deducted from the June 30th check. Moving on to July, annual 12-month employees will receive a partial monthly paycheck on July 30th for the work from July 1 to July 17th. Same concept applies for our summer session and summer service. Contract dates vary, so there might be a proration based on the days worked for their 7/30 paycheck. Also, on the July 30th paycheck, full benefits deductions will be taken and full benefit contributions will be taken. So this moves us now to the first biweekly paycheck, which will be on 8/12 for the work done from July 18th through July 31st. And as I mentioned a couple slides earlier, there will not be benefit deductions taken on this check. However, there will be the benefit contributions, which include our tax sheltered annuity, our deferred comp, etc. Those will be deducted from this paycheck. And then kind of moving into the process going forward, this is our following 2 biweekly paychecks, one on 8/26 and one on 9/9. And this kind of identifies for us that half of the benefits will be taken on one of those checks on 8/26 and the other half will be taken on 9/9. So it just gives us the flow for how the biweekly paychecks will be handled and that benefits will be split amongst 2 paychecks in the month. All right, so it's always nice to know during a transition period of what is also not changing. We've had some questions on these, and so we wanted to share with you the couple points on what we have that are staying the same. So the total amount of benefit deductions are not changing. So your monthly premium for, say, a health insurance is not changing. It is just being, it will just be split between 2 paychecks in a month. It won't come out of 1 paycheck. Annual leave accrual amounts are also not changing. So that schedule remains the same, as well as the timing of the leave allocation. And for monthly employees, that is provided for on a fiscal year basis.
Jenny, just wondering if you could just speak up just a little bit. We're getting some people saying you're kind of coming across a little soft. So,
Yep.
Okay.
Is that better?
Think so.
Okay, thank you. All right, what is also not changing with this transition is Fair Labor Standards Act FLSA designations, and tax withholding and garnishments will not change. So a little bit about tax withholding. On a biweekly paycheck, it will be smaller than on the monthly paycheck just because the earnings are different, but total tax deductions ultimately equal the same amount. If you actually take an additional flat amount out for taxes, you will want to adjust the amount to deduct over 26 paychecks. And just a reminder that, again, we will go through options in more detail on making adjustments to flat dollar contributions during the transition in our future town halls. Garnishments will automatically be adjusted for biweekly payroll, so agencies will be informed of the change and the new deduction schedule, and there's no action needed from an employee on garnishments. All right, so next up, what do you need to do? So we are recommending that if you have automatic payments set up for things like your mortgage, car loans, and utilities, that you will want to review and possibly adjust your monthly budget and automatic payments to match the new biweekly paycheck amounts. So to make these adjustments to automatic payments, you will need to work directly with your financial entities where you have these accounts set up. There is a Paycheck Estimator on our single payroll website provided to assist you with budget planning associated with the change from the monthly to the biweekly paycheck. So please take advantage of this tool. It really will provide you with a good snapshot of the change that will occur to your paycheck and give you an estimate of those changes going forward. All right. So the next thing that we need to focus on, and I've said this a couple times through the presentation, because this really is an important key factor with the transition between monthly to the biweekly payroll schedule, is if you have payroll contributions that are flat dollar amounts, so tax sheltered annuity, Wisconsin deferred compensation, additional tax deductions, additional WRS deductions, and direct deposits into multiple accounts, you will want to adjust the amount to deduct over 26 paychecks. However, for the transition, again, we're going to have to take a look at what was deducted monthly and then how many paychecks are left for biweekly paychecks are left. So there's going to be some review of your contributions that we'll want to take care of upon the transition. So again, this is just a good reminder that we will be addressing these details in a future town hall. And we will also, as it states here, be contacting you directly with next steps and timing for adjusting flat dollar amounts. So we really want to make sure that nobody is missed in this process who have flat dollar amounts, because it will have an impact on their paychecks going forward. I think that's it for me, Dan, so I'll turn that back over to you.
So I know that there's a number of questions in the chat, and we'll spend some time going over those, but just to kind of preview kind of future opportunities, we do recommend, right, there are some workshops we've set up with financial institutions, with UW Credit Union in particular, to talk about how do you make these adjustments. So if you need to reach out and work with, mortgage, your bank, even your landlord for rent, in terms of saying, this is when my paycheck comes, it's different now. They have some very good practical advice on how to do that. So encourage you to check those out, and also our website, which has kind of our FAQs on it, as well as the listing of upcoming savings and spending workshops and future town halls. And just taking a look at the next slide, they're listed here as well. Again, your on the next slide where we see the town halls. We do have additional town hall meetings with some special focus, right, coming up in May. Information for 9-month and summer contract employees. We will have another general one for 12-month contract employees and other open sessions. So you'll see repeated focuses throughout the year, as well as just updating our FAQ site. And as Jenny said, reaching out to some of those populations that have specific actions that they must take, right, for those flat dollar amount deductions, contacting via email. So let's, if you're looking for points of contacts, there are support phone numbers for both UW System and UW Madison, and just a general email that you can ask your question to directly. So if for some reason we do not get to your question today, or do not answer it, or there's a level of specificity you need that's not appropriate here, please do reach out through one of our hotlines or one of our direct email, as well as our website, so that we can continue to be answering your questions as you prepare and we prepare for this transition over the next few months. So with that, we are going to start taking a look at your questions and hopefully get to all of them. So Tom, will you be reading us some of those questions so that Jenny and I can?
Yes, are you able to? Yes.
Yeah.
So just to let you know that this is being recorded, and the slides will be posted on the website, and I'm going to put the link to the website as I speak. And I know we had a lot of questions coming in before you got to the sequence of payroll change. So here's a question: in the current state, if a payroll skips holiday, if the Thursday is a holiday, what will that be skipped? So if a payday falls on a holiday, when will that payment be made?
Jenny, do you want to field that one? What happens on Thanksgiving?
If a payday falls on a Thursday, the payment is typically made the day before. So it would be paid on Wednesday before the holiday.
Good. Just to clarify, for July pay, we won't see payment until August 12th versus August 1st. And are you able to see the questions and answers in the SharePoint document, Dan, that we have up?
Oh, I apologize. I don't know that I have that linked open. Sorry. Jenny, you want to?
Yep.
I'm assuming you have that open, and
I do have it open.
Yep. Get that linked open. Thank you.
So yes, a payment will be made on July 30th for July 1 to July 17th, and then the second payment will be made on 8/12 for the pay period, or the work time of 7/18 through the 31st. So that is correct.
Question: will 9-month academic paychecks be paid for full 2 weeks, or will it be a partial paycheck with pay depending on the contract start date? And I believe the answer to that, Jenny, is this will depend on the contract start date.
That's correct.
Again, just a question, will the 12-month employees receive a standard 1-month check August 1st for July then? And the answer is, I think we covered, is no. The July 30th payment will be made for the pay period of July 1st through July 17th. So it'll be kind of a prorated monthly salary. And again, we'll have these slides available that show those calendars that may give you, again, just a little better idea of when you get paid for what pay periods, work periods you will get paid for. Will there be 2 paychecks a year where deductions are not taken?
So yes, there are 2 paychecks out of the year that deductions are not taken. That is correct. And the first one is actually August 12th when we receive our first biweekly paycheck. That is one of the paychecks out of the calendar year that do not have benefits deductions.
Jenny and Dan, are you able to see the document then with the questions and answers?
I am now. I'm looking for if Jess is on the line. Can you send me that link again? Yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate it. I've been frantically sending out emails to try to get that link found.
Jenny, are you able to
I
see
do.
that? Okay, we're
Yep.
kind of down to like around question 12.
Okay.
Will additional contributions need to be adjusted?
So additional WRS contributions, yes, may need to be adjusted. So the normal WRS deductions are automatically a percentage of your salary, but if you have an additional flat dollar amount that you contribute towards WRS, that will need your review and potential adjustment, yes, depending on the amount it is, because it will be going from 12 contributions to over a year, it would be 26, but it will be the remaining number of pay periods for this calendar year, which I believe is 11. So yes, that is what we're talking about with the flat dollar amount contributions, and that we will be focusing on that in future town halls, as well as doing outreach for employees who have flat dollar amount contributions set up currently. We will be reaching out to you directly. And I see the next question is very similar about concerns with changes to flat deductions. And again, we are well aware of this concern and want to make sure that we cover everybody and reach out to everybody who has the flat contributions. So I think we will have that covered with our communications directly to you. We will have stuff on the landing page. And again, we are also focusing future town halls on the topic. So
a question that came in is just confirming that the July 30th check will be significantly less than the regular monthly check. Plus we'll have the full monthly deductions not taken out of that. Is that correct?
that is correct. That is correct for a basis for sure. If you are on the summer contract, again, contracts will vary. So the amount of that payment on July 30th will differ based on your contract dates within that month.
And Jane, just to clarify, when you say a basis,
sorry, yeah,
just so we don't use payroll speak.
Yep, thank you. A basis 12-month annual contracts. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, definitely one of the purposes of communicating the change early and to putting out there the payroll calculator and kind of encouraging people to take a look is it will be a transition period, and we do need to plan for it collectively, right? Planning for that small paycheck so that you get onto a new cadence. So planning early, spending a little time thoughtfully about what that transition will look like, and hopefully setting aside some funds over the next 4 to 6 months will help make that transition something we can plan for. And that was one of the key reasons why we ended up moving this date to a July date, so that we could have more time for employees to make this adjustment as well. So we're definitely appreciate that it is an adjustment. But again, once we're onto that system, I think it really will be a benefit for everyone.
Question, when can they expect to be notified? Excuse me, chat screen's bouncing around here. I just lost the question. When can they expect to be contacted about flat 403B contributions? Just so that people can watch for that communication.
So we are currently developing that communication, and I believe we haven't finalized the dates or the exact timeline, but I think we are looking at starting in May and then potentially reaching out a couple times as we monitor those changes in those amounts, those deductions.
Yeah, and to kind of talk a little bit about that timing, right? If you update your 403B contribution, it takes effect on that next payroll. And so ideally, we would communicate in June and you'd make that change, and then it would, roll appropriately. But we know many of our academic year employees, by the end of May, or middle of May, they're gone. So we're going to make sure we're communicating early, communicating in May, about that timeline, so that there's kind of multiple opportunities to make sure everyone makes the change as appropriate, especially those people who may be, ending the academic year and not able to make that change closer to the time switch. So it's definitely in our minds for how we keep communicating to all of you.
Question, is there a reason why the benefit deductions for insurance is divided over 24 pay periods and not smoothed over 26 like the benefit deductions? It's question 18 on the document there.
So the reason that it is divided over 24 is that premiums need to be remitted monthly to vendors and need to be whole for, on a monthly basis, not smoothed over the year. So that is the reason it is set up the way it is.
Can you speak to HSA deductions? How those are going to be made as well, just to
Yeah,
clarify
so
that.
the HSA is generally an annual election. So if you've done an annual election amount, the system will adjust your contribution for the remaining paychecks of the year, right? What is the balance left that you wanted deducted, and it will just divide it evenly over those remaining paychecks that the HSA contribution comes out of. So for those type of deductions in general, right, deductions where it's a goal amount, so to speak, right, a total amount versus a flat dollar amount, they generally don't need a action on the employee's part, which is why we're going to be reaching out to people with those flat dollar contributions.
Can you speak to questions and comments that have come in about, does the UW system, are they actually saving money by making this change to saving a half-month salary for its employees in FY 21-22? Is that UW, is that part of its reason why they're doing this, or the effect to UW system?
So we're really doing this for operational efficiencies, right? We spend a lot of time communicating about a lot of different payroll calendars. It's not the best way to operate, a payroll system, right? Ultimately, we want everyone to be getting the money that they're owed for their jobs in a timely manner, as efficiently, as effectively as possible. From a budgetary savings, the way in which this 2-week transition period doesn't impact the fiscal year budgets at all, right? Just like an employee, when they're paid their annual contract, they'll receive their annual contract amount. So it's not a budget issue from that standpoint. It's really an efficiency operations issue.
We're also getting comments of people who are interpreting this as a shortfall. And just, I think you want to speak to, again, the change that people will experience initially through the transition. of different amounts in their paychecks.
Yeah, I've seen this kind of concern a lot, right? I mean, we're going to experience a smaller paycheck and then it's going to go to biweekly. Is this somehow that the employees are losing money or never catching up in that payment over the course of a year? And I think that's a question that's come up a couple times. I think the easiest way to look at this, if you look at an annual contract amount, whether that's a 9-month employee or a 12-month employee, your contract is for that full amount of money. And so over the course of that 9 or 12 months, you'll receive that full amount of money. When you're looking at the pay schedule, right, you might start receiving that a little earlier than you may have or a little later based on when the biweekly payrolls fall. But by the end of that year, you've been paid it all. I've heard a lot of concern about, you never catch up until you leave. The reality with a biweekly payroll is there are 26 paychecks. So there's two periods throughout the year when you get a third paycheck. And so you kind of do catch up kind of in the ebb of flow of cash flow during the year because of that third paycheck. So yeah, I mean, when you look at an annual pay, you will be paid for the days you work every 2 weeks, and ultimately you will be paid your full contract within a contract year. So yeah, I think that perception is one of the experience, right, of getting that first paycheck and having that first paycheck be smaller. And we certainly appreciate that that's going to be something we have to plan for, which is why we're here today and why we're putting out tools like the Paycheck Estimator. So hopefully that helps.
We do have a lot of questions that have be some answers in the FAQs on the website. Question: do you need to submit a new W-2 form for tax withholding?
So the thing is, if you want to adjust your additional contributions, you would need to submit a new W-4. Otherwise, if you're not making any adjustments to your withholdings, you would not have to. So, right, if you're just keeping the deductions you have, not something you would need to submit.
Will dependent care FSA contributions, HSA contributions automatically update to have total yearly contributions split over the different number of paychecks? I guess the short answer to that is yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
So they will automatically update again under that philosophy. If it is a yearly contribution, right, where you've targeted a yearly amount, then the system is smart enough to adjust that. And really, what you're seeing with these flat dollar amounts is we don't know what the intention of someone who says a flat dollar amount per paycheck. If that's what they, how to adjust that. But if it is anything that is set in an annual amount, then that deduction will adjust, which would then include annual elections for an FSA or an HSA contribution.
We've had some questions come in about the Paycheck Estimator. People have gone in, and just to let you know that we appreciate your feedback on that. We're still verifying some of the formatting of the Paycheck Estimator and are going to make some changes to that. Is there any impact of the 26 pay period? Does that affect the highest 3 years for retirement formula calculation?
I'm just
Question 30.
There we go. I'm looking at the referenced question that you referenced. Could you read that question again?
It appears that on a fiscal year basis, there are not 26 pay periods for FY22. Is that correct? And if so, that may impact the 3 highest years for retirement formula calculation.
Yeah, so that is correct. There are 25 paychecks within a pay period because of the way, right? There's a 2-week lag on biweekly payroll, which is typical. there are 25. We are working with ETF to adjust that, right? And that's how do you deal with that transition year to a biweekly payroll? So we will work with ETF to properly report the earnings so that it wouldn't negatively impact people who happen to retire in the year of the transition, right? It's not something that is an ongoing concern, but we're aware of it and are talking to ETF. So if you happen to be retiring during the transition year, your earnings would be appropriately accounted for.
Question number 40 there in the document. And again, for those of you that if we're making reference to numbers, we're looking at a document that as your questions come in, we've been writing them down and writing the answers so Dan and Jenny can respond to them as they're coming in. So kind of offline, we're looking at a document with that information to help them answer your questions. There is a how will we adjust supplementary retirement contributions through UW or through W? Do we do it through UW or through WRS?
Yeah, so if you're adjusting your contributions, you would adjust them through the employer, right, through the University of Wisconsin, not through WRS or ETF. And just to put Jenny on the spot, then, is that something they can do via self-service?
So that is, where we'll be reaching out also for people and guiding you as to the timing to do this and how to do it. I believe some are self-service, others are not. So
But we will be reaching out.
Yeah, we will be reaching out. Yeah.
And that is the next question is you say you will be reaching out. What does that mean? Who will be contacting them?
Yep, that is UW Shared Services will be reaching out directly to employees who are impacted by flat dollar amount contributions. We'll be sending an email, reaching out and giving them guidance.
I'm going to let you two just kind of scroll through the questions because there are, duplicates, questions that we've already have asked and answered to see if there's some new ones.
So, yeah.
Again, thanks everybody for your questions that have been coming in. A lot of the same questions that a number of people have been asking.
Yeah, I know there's a number of questions about, if you have a smaller monthly take home for the months of July and November, and you're only receiving a third paycheck in December, will we be, fully compensated? Again, I think the key here when we're entering in your payroll amounts into, the payroll system, right, for salaried employees, we're looking at your annual contract and entering in for the dates worked and dividing it over that pay period. So for those of you who have an annual contract amount, your annual salary amount, that's what you would be paid over the course of that 9 or 12 months. So it is about timing of those and ultimately a little bit more accurate, right? Because it'll tie to a 2-week pay period. But again, the transition is a transition. And we do want to prepare everyone for that because it is hard to go from a full month's pay all at once to basically 2 weeks at a time, segmenting that out. But we are confident that once we've experienced the change and the transition, it really is going to be a smoother process for employees across the system going forward. So we do appreciate your interest because we want you to be interested. We want you to be asking the questions and paying attention, because if you're not, then if this comes as a surprise, it's going to be a tough transition. If we all ask these questions and spend a little time on thinking about how it impacts our paychecks, it will be a smooth transition.
Question 55, will monthly employees earn leave like the biweekly staff with this change, or is it just this payroll only not affecting leave allocation? So what's the effect on that leave?
Sure, thank you for pointing us to that question. Yeah, so leave allocations and even the leave timing, right, that whether it's a fiscal year or an annual, do not change. So that is based on your employee type. So if you are a academic staff or faculty or limited appointee, a FASLE employee who's entitled to vacation or sick leave, that accrual total allocation is the same and it resets in July versus if you're a university staff and you're non-exempt and you have a different vacation allocation that resets in January. So
combining two questions, number 57 and 60, talking about reporting hours and reporting time off requests. Can you touch base on, will those time off requests need to be reported prior to the 2-week pay cycle? And then who marks the hours and who approves that time off, that leave time?
Yeah, so the process for putting in requests for time off shouldn't change. Right, ideally, we're all entering our time prior to or in the pay period that we take them. That's the ideal. I think with monthly employees, we don't always see that happening. But yeah, you should be entering your time and the approval process would not change. And like we've talked about for the no leave taken report, we're really working behind the scenes to create a process that would still look at a calendar month and actually be simplified, right? For those of you who've had to submit no leave taken reports, they can kind of demand a level of, making sure you get the date in the right payroll. We want to make sure that that's simplified if possible. So we're still working on that. So payroll, the time off approval, not changing. And we're hoping with the no leave taken that we'll be simplifying that and not tying it to every 2 weeks.
Just to let you know, the slide that we have up, we will be coming back again in May with town hall meetings. The one on May 4th is going to focus on those 9-month and summer contract employees. Again, just that one last opportunity to answer questions prior to the change. The one on May 13th is for 12-month contract employees. And then we're keeping May 17th kind of as an open session just to catch one last opportunity for you to ask questions and with any new information. So just wanted to mention that again, that we do have additional town hall meetings coming up in May.
We're just taking a pause to take a look at all the questions coming in to see if we can group them together and answer some of those. So one question that says, how have the initiative's impacts to grants and sponsored contracts been evaluated? So we're working very closely with our partners at Madison who have been having conversations with those. I know a member of the project team actually went and spoke with grants administrators to listen to their concerns. So it's been kind of an ongoing process. Madison is very deeply involved in that, the Madison team. So we've been, that's been forefront in our mind because it was asked very early in the project, and we're continuing to talk with people about their needs and how that's going to impact the grants.
We did get a question coming in. Actually, thank you for the question. Are there going to be any more town hall meetings after May, closer to the implementation date? And I guess, Dan, that's something for the project team to consider.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
If needed, we will have them. So, I mean, if these prove useful and that may be a good suggestion. I don't think we had contemplated that because I think we were thinking a lot of the academic staff would be off. I've done a lot of the pre-planning already through May, but yeah, we'll take that under advisement. I mean, we're if these are useful, we want to hold them. So we'll put that note down. Thank you.
Dan and Jenny, I'm going to move back to the calendars again, just to have you just go through that one last time, because this may again just get answer or the questions that people might have, but just to help them again understand when the payments paycheck are going to be made for what pay periods, and then how those deductions are going to be made. So just to answer any of those individual questions about when, why, how much during this transition period. So I put up the slides starting in June, and Jenny, if you want to cover those slides one more time before we close the meeting down.
Sure. So again, for the month of June, annual 12-month employees will receive the full monthly paycheck on June 30th for work done in June. Summer session and summer service contract dates vary, so it will be paid potentially on a prorated basis based on days worked in this month of June. And yeah, full monthly benefit deductions and benefit contributions will be taken out of this June 30th paycheck. And then when we move to July, for an annual year 12-month employee, it's partial monthly. This will be a partial monthly paycheck for July 1 through July 17th. Summer session and summer service, same concept applies, that the dates vary based on the contract, but the paycheck on June 30th will include full benefits deductions, both for the insurances and the benefit contributions, including TSA, WDC, etc. And then when we move to the biweekly schedule, the first paycheck for the week of July 18th through the 31st will be on August 12th. There will be no benefits deductions taken from this check, but there will be the full benefit contributions that are set up for TSA, WDC, etc. And then going forward on the biweekly paycheck schedule, benefits deductions will be split between two paychecks in a month. So this is the paycheck on 8/26 and 8/9, and showing how the two will be splitting the benefit deductions for September.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yep.
I did post that, again, the link to the website with more FAQs, slides, and a video of today's town hall meeting will be on the website. And then a question coming in about how are we going to answer questions that we didn't get answered today. We are continuing to update the FAQs on that website. So if there were some unique questions that have come in, those will be updated in our FAQs. And again, you might want to check out the FAQs because they may have that answer to your question that you're looking for.
And also, Tom, could you put up that the slide with the phone number and email as well?
Yeah, and there was a question, we'll have to check. There was a question about the phone number for the Madison support that apparently it goes to a voicemail. So we will check on that, that number for UW Madison support.
Thank you. Yeah, and before we close, I know we're getting at the end of time here. I just want to take a moment to thank you, Tom, and Jenny, and kind of recognize that behind the scenes here is a team of people working to answer your questions, but also to really work hard to make this a seamless process in terms of delivering accurate payroll every month and every 2 weeks in the future for our employees. And just a moment to say that is a very large effort on the behalf of all of us. And so I just want to make sure that we kind of acknowledge and thank them for that work, because I think it often goes unrecognized. We all just expect that in our bank account, right? Each pay period. But really, thank you for getting that work done on behalf of all of us. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. And again, let you know that we will have this video and the slides on that website under the town hall meeting for today. It'll probably be loaded sometime tomorrow, but just let you know that we'll have the replay and all this information for you to access again. So thanks everybody for participating. Dan and Jenny for your input today. And again, we have, you'll see on the website, we still have upcoming town hall meetings into May, just to give one more opportunity for you to ask any questions. So thanks everybody, and we please have a great day.